Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Building Intrapreneurial Innovators webinar. My name is Lily Kennedy, and as the Youth Coordinator for the Bloom Centre for Youth Innovation, it is my pleasure to be emceeing this webinar for you this afternoon. Now, we know Term 2 is an incredibly busy time for everyone, so from the entire team, we just want to thank you for giving up your time to join us this afternoon for what is shaping up to be a very exciting discussion. Now, before we begin, we would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands on which we're all joining from this afternoon and pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging, and recognise their role as the original innovators and creators of these lands. And for us at Bloom, that's the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation. So this afternoon, we are all tuning in to listen to the first ever Edufest WA webinar on the theme of building intrapreneurial innovators, as we look at how we can prepare our young people to thrive in today's innovation economy. Now, our panel today will be hosted by one of the Edufest WA co-founders, Scott Miller, and the webinar will see a panel of West Australian intrapreneurs coming together to share their experiences in the industry, as well as their advice for educators who are looking to equip their young people with the intrapreneurial skills needed to thrive in our ever-changing future of work. And as the future of work does continue to transform, discussions like this are really essential to provide us all with a glimpse into the opportunities that an innovative mindset unveils for students, not just as entrepreneurs, but as intrapreneurs within existing organisations in our changing workforce. So a bit of background, this webinar is being run as part of a new initiative I mentioned called Edufest WA. And Edufest WA is powered by the Malka Foundation, St Catherine's College, Bloom Centre for Youth Innovation and BOP Industries. It is a one-day conference that will empower West Australian educators to integrate the work-ready capabilities that we hear about into their teaching practices so that students are really provided with a chance to develop those skills that we know will lead to intrapreneurial pathways. And this event will help attendees as well to develop a culture of innovation and entrepreneurship in their school communities and foster a new generation of creative problem solvers and critical thinkers who are ready to tackle the challenges of the future. So through workshops, seminars, hands-on activities, Edufest WA attendees will have the chance to learn from industry leaders and experts, as well as collaborate and network with other educators. It's a unique opportunity for educators to enhance their knowledge and understanding of intrapreneurship, innovation, design thinking, entrepreneurship, and other topics that will enable them to teach these 21st century skills with confidence and with resources. Edufest WA will be taking place on the 11th of September, so you can put that in your diary at Bloom Centre for Youth Innovation at St Catherine's College in Crawley, Perth, from 7:30 a.m. till 3:30 p.m. Tickets are now on sale, so I hope that you can all join us for an action-packed day of inspiration and education. But I won't keep you waiting any longer. I would like to introduce our panel moderator, Scott Miller, to our virtual stage today to kick off our Edufest WA webinar, exploring how we can all build intrapreneurial innovators in our communities.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction, Lily. I know it's been such a pleasure getting to work with the Bloom, Malka and St Catherine's team to bring Edufest to life. And I can't wait for September. I'm counting down the days already. We've got a truly outstanding program in action. So welcome to the Building Intrapreneurial Innovators webinar. Now, this webinar has been designed to explore the role of intrapreneurship and innovation in both the classroom and in the workforce. Now, intrapreneurship is a relatively new term and not one that we've heard of too often. And essentially, intrapreneurship is the idea of being entrepreneurial and taking an entrepreneurial approach to opportunities within an existing organization. Now, intrapreneurs are fantastic at finding new ways of doing things, developing new products and services, and bringing new ideas to life in existing organizations and in existing brands. Whilst we have a big focus on entrepreneurship in the education space, what we do find is for a lot of young people, the idea of starting and growing their own business is fantastic, but for many of them, they'll actually become intrapreneurs, developing entrepreneurial pursuits within existing organizations. And I think one of my favorite quotes is from the founder of the Virgin Group, Richard Branson, who says that whilst it's true that every company needs an entrepreneur to get it underway, healthy growth requires a smattering of intrapreneurs who drive new projects, explore new unexpected directions for business development, and bring those ideas to life. So for our panel discussion this afternoon, I'm super excited to be welcoming 3 West Australian intrapreneurs to share their stories. Now, I'm going to get them all to come to the stage now. We've got Gia Kiatnatsu, we have Maria Luque, and Imogen Blow, who are all joining us from across WA. Thank you all for joining us this afternoon. Now, I've got your bios, and I know your bio is being used as part of the promotional material, but I always know it's a bit awkward when someone else is reading your bio and you're just sitting there. So what I'm going to do is get you each to introduce yourself, just in a couple of sentences, telling us who you are, what you do. Imogen, we might get started with you. Can you tell us about your work with both Bloom and Peachy?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I'm an entrepreneur and an intrapreneur at the same time. I have my own business called Peachy, which is a wedding content creation business. It's a more modern version of wedding videography that you would have at a wedding, just sharing thousands of bloopers and funny, intimate kind of moments from throughout someone's wedding day rather than just a traditional wedding video. And I'm getting a fleet of content creators for that. And then as an intrapreneur, I am lucky enough to work for the coolest organization ever called Bloom. And at Bloom, I am tech support, marketing support, certified vibe raiser, bit of photography in there too. And yeah, I just kind of help with building out the tech and innovating in that way.
That's amazing. And thank you so much for joining us. I know I'm really excited to unpack your journey, working with Peachy, but also working with Bloom, exploring the skills you've built with both, and also what that journey has looked like, building your own business while working inside an existing organization as well. Now, Gia, we might go to you next. Now, I had the pleasure of first meeting you a couple of years ago at an event and hearing about some of the work you're leading at Microsoft, but also the work that you're trailblazing all across the Asia Pacific. And I've been super excited to unpack that story further. Could you tell us about what your role is at Microsoft and all of the different things that you get involved with on a day-to-day basis?
Thank you for having me, Scott. My name is Gia, and I am a cloud solution architect specializing in data and AI for federal government of Australia. Usually it's a big name, right? It sounds like a big title, but what I do every day is to help customer implement and deploy their data and AI solutions, from planning until oversight support of how their implementation's going. So that's about me, and I do heap loads of other things. I like to see it as a hat rather than a role, because you can actually get a lot done being in one role but wear different hats.
Absolutely. And can you give us a high-level overview of what some of those other things are that you get up to?
Yeah, so in my free time, I would often go out and teach different age groups about technologies, whether it's data analytics or AIs. I also teach at the boot camp as well for AI and sometimes data too, because data and AI, they are interrelated. Actually, you cannot have AI without data. So that's fun fact. And I also host a lot of community events using Microsoft Office, whether it is machine learning or Net Zero Western Australia or Bits and Bobs. Whoever they're trying to organize the events, they usually come to me and ask if I can help them get themselves going.
Awesome. That's fantastic. And I'm really excited to unpack that a little bit further later as we talk about how you've been able to have that role at Microsoft and do so much great work, but also you've got so much impact that you're making outside of that as well. And Maria, over to you. Can you tell us a bit more about the work you've been doing building Drip, but also as part of Better Labs as well?
Yeah, thank you for having me, Scott. So I'm Maria. I'm from Argentina. That's where the accent is coming from. I moved to Australia 5 years ago, and I've had multiple jobs in different industries until I landed my dream job, which is at Better Labs, where we build startups from scratch. So Isabel and I are the founders of Drip, which is one of the first investing app for teens in Australia. So our goal is to support the younger generations of teenagers to become financially savvy at an early age. And yeah, we've been live since last December. And yeah, super happy to be building and growing Drip in this ecosystem.
That's fantastic. That's really exciting. And I'm so excited to hear more about the Better Labs model and also to what it's been like going through that process to build Drip from scratch as well. So for those watching, I'm sure you can agree we have an absolutely outstanding panel with three entrepreneurs that are taking very different entrepreneurial approaches as they bring their ideas to life, as they make impact, and as they go through their careers. And I can't wait to unpack those stories. Now, Gia, we might start with yourself for a question. Now, you've managed to blaze a very impressive trail as you've increased tech accessibility and inclusiveness, specifically with underrepresented groups, which you touched on before. And this is also on top of your day job as a cloud solution architect at Microsoft. Can you tell me, what did that thought process look like? Like, what prompted you to go above and beyond what I think many would consider the standard 9 to 5 to build such a fantastic legacy?
Actually, being at Microsoft, there are many ways to become intrapreneurial. I don't know if I say it right, but it's so hard for me to pronounce. But yeah, there are many ways to become intrapreneurials, and being involved in a club or employee resource group is basically a special group of interest, or a V team. V team is like a virtual team. You might not be in that team to actually work on specific customer, but it might be a particular projects that you care about, or what we call about stretch projects. We are never actually shot on what's there for us to do. And to be honest, sometimes it's a little more than what we should do. So being in entrepreneurials, it doesn't mean that you have to be the one initiating the ideas, right? Because it's equally as important to build on top of other people's ideas. And actually, we all encourage building on top of other people's ideas. Now, every year, I usually have different focus on what I'm trying to achieve or trying to grow and learn as a person outside of being a solution architect. So out of all those 4 years at Microsoft, I've been involved in various projects. They all come and go. That's why it's a definition of project, right? There's a start and there's an end. And as it ends, I will try to look for new projects that I, can get on. I used to be part of the early in careers because we were having some problems retaining talent. So we're trying to see what is the engagement models look like for them to wanting to stay at Microsoft long term. And we built the whole programs around it, get the budget, have an event, and make sure that everybody, learns something and grow as a young professional. And then as that finish, I'd also got on to the climate change side of things. So I was briefly, I wouldn't say briefly, it was about a year and a half in sustainability. And for me at that time, sustainability is something that I did not care about. And I have to say this because I'm from Thailand. We only care about bottom lines, right? Like we just care about what is it that we are going to survive each day. So then when I actually got a chance to be in sustainability, and I realized that it's such a big thing to learn, and it's not just about the technology component. It's also mean how we actually go about ourselves, our day, our community go about ourselves, our days, or what is the policy being passed at the government, state, or federal level in order to actually help the world reach to net zero. There's a lot of things to learn. So then for me at that time, I was like, all right, what is the best way to learn about this? Because it's a problem for everybody of a lifetime. It's not like one thing you can learn in a day and you get over it. It's a continuous journey. Got myself into what they call a climate flask. Actually, I did not put that in my introduction, but I also do the climate education as well as part of a 3-hour workshop. So I got into climate flask, learn it myself. Basically, you come and do the games together. It's like a card games, 42 cards within 3 hours, and build it all out. Each card represents one idea, and it's always the causal or effects of the climate change. Because usually climate change is such, big words. You have to be a scientist to actually understand what's going on, right? But they simplify it. So I upskill myself, understand much better, and now I'm actually teaching other people to understand, the climate change in 3 hours. Actually, right at this moment. So, anyways, that is ongoing at this moment, because it's a new year now, right? So I'm actually on the review board of Cloud Adoption Framework for Generative AI. We saw that ever since ChatGPT or GPT generative AI tools came out, there's a lack of adoption and understanding, and lack of framework in general for the businesses to actually adopt it. So we want to build a framework that guides the businesses. So I'm actually actively working on this project. Hopefully we're going to get some draft out pretty soon this year, so that all the businesses decided to, get into this AI system projects and thinking about responsibility, thinking about the end-to-end framework or life cycle of the of AI and how it's impact their stakeholders. So that's it. That's it about like the being entrepreneurial. And what did you ask me about the 9 to 5? Why? How did I kind of
Yeah, I guess
something go above and beyond?
Absolutely.
Well,
and I guess that sort of ties into a follow-on question around how do you balance it as well with your day-to-day work, or I guess what's in the job description versus all of these extra activities?
Yeah, totally. To be honest, what you asked me a really good questions. Go above and beyond. Like, why would I do something beyond 9 to 5? Why wouldn't I just, go home and rest? There are times that I rest as well, but there are a couple of reasons. So when I first got involved with communities, right, it was actually TEDx Perth. It's moved from Thailand 8 years ago. TEDx Perth, that's where I first volunteered. And that group actually taught me how to love Perth and see Western Australia in a different light. For me, the WA is a growing state. It's exciting to see so much we can do together to develop the state. I want to be part of it, and it's simple like that. I am pretty much governed by how I feel about what I do, and if I feel right about it, then I do it. And if I feel excited, then I do it. Secondly, I want life to be fun. You probably already can tell, right? And fun for me, it comes from many different ways and from many different experience. What I choose to do, it often widens my worldview. It always go to the point of how can I actually get a bigger perspective. For me, it's just more ways to experience and connect with different peoples, because that's what give me meaning in life. It also help me pay the bills, the 9 to 5, all the experiences that I told you before out of 9 to 5, it give me what 9 to 5 can't, right? All the fun stuff that keep me going. 9 to 5, pay the bills. There's a duty, responsibility, or whatever that I have to give to my family now and family of the future. I still have to maintain that. But I'm thinking about how can I actually make it fun, because it's out of university. This is like the majority of my time. I want it to mean something to me. I always want that life that is bigger than myself. Don't know how to explain that, but that's how I feel. I don't go and put things in spreadsheets and then trying to be productive. I think I tried that. It didn't work. If we take life super scientifically, I don't think it works. It actually ruins my brain. So it depends on what am I doing at that point in time or that week, because there's a concept of flexible working, right? Work-life balance is not just about work and rest, but also like work in your core priorities and what it means to you, that as a human being that meets all your core needs and values, right? So for me, like there's a flexible working, there's a concept of works for me. You can say hashtag works for me, right? Because if I decided to do a particular project, let's say, for example, I spend about 2 hours, preparing and recording this webinar, right? Not my core priorities, but it gives me joy. I want, younger generation to see that there are more ways to actually go about your corporate jobs. It doesn't have to be all bad, right? So then I see 2 hours, right? This is not my core priorities. That's okay. I will see like, how can I actually compensate that with the work that I'm going to do tomorrow? Or maybe I'll work a little bit later today. But this is where I come and get energy. So then for me, it's just finding the balance. And the work I do, it's usually doesn't get quantified in 2 hours. You have to always look at the outcome. Why are you spending 2 hours doing it? If the impact too little, then you might want to rethink your approach of doing it, right? You don't actually just quantify by hours. That's not how we kind of get any meaningful outcomes. I hope that answered the question, Scott.
No, absolutely. I think there were some fantastic insights. I really loved even what you said at the start, that concept that you in Microsoft don't need to start with an idea. You can take someone else's idea and grow it and build it. And I think it really is that, saying, well, look, my 9 to 5, my traditional job, it fills a certain number of cups. Like I get to use a certain part of my brain, but what doesn't it give me? And how can I find it outside of that? And that concept of continuous learning and continuous growth, as you talked about, being introduced to a topic for the first time and then getting to that point where you've learned so much that you're now teaching it as well. Yeah, I've been writing down so many notes. That was fantastic. And I think it leads me on to my next question, which is for Imogen. Now, Imogen, I know Gia touched on that concept of finding what fills your cup. And I can imagine between the work you do with Peachy and the work you do with Bloom, you'd be a very busy person, but also too, there'd be a fair bit of diversity there. Can you tell me what prompted you to sort of say, well, look, I think I want to start my own business, but I also still want to work for another organization? What did that decision-making process look like, and what prompted that decision?
Absolutely. I started off with wanting to have my business straight after uni, or kind of at the end of uni, when I was like, this is just not for me. So I finished off my degree and started another business called Ginger Imagery. You probably see where the name came from. That was focused around drone pilots and kind of sending drones out when they were initially starting out. And I loved it. But I was also offered an opportunity with this awesome company called Bloom, which Lily touched on, but it's the Centre of Youth Innovation here in Perth. So it's where young people go to start businesses, and we present them with pretty much everything they need to start that business: mentorship, co-working space, networking, all of that kind of stuff, so they can get together and work out how to start a business. And just being around Bloom for my business, it was beneficial. It was so symbiotic, because for my business, I could feed off the network and the just the vibes being around Bloom, lots of people working towards a common goal, something that I did touch in the corporate kind of world. You didn't have the same kind of driven people, or at least not the concentration of driven people in one place, whereas Bloom just brings in all these passionate people from uni who want to start businesses and kind of sends them on their way. So it really helped me drive my businesses, helped me be dynamic in that I could talk to people, and when I thought the business wasn't doing so well, I could kind of get some advice from people who've done it before. So that was really great. But then from the other side, being a part of Bloom, it was great to have because Bloom's pretty dynamic, it's pretty small. We call ourselves very lean and mean, small team, but big outcomes. But typically businesses have slightly longer turnaround time just because you have more approvals and whatnot. But for my business, I own it. So I could try different technologies, try anything I really wanted, and just test it to see if it works. When I did find things that would work, I'd be like, hey, Bloom, I've already spent all the time trying to work out what works and what doesn't. I think we should use this piece of software. For example, at the moment, I've done that with this software called Airtable. If anyone's heard of that, it is amazing. It's essentially like a very flexible CRM. It's very much more dynamic and modern than the traditional ones like Salesforce or HubSpot, which are also good. And so now I've kind of, because I've gotten the skills from my business, can inject that into Bloom. And I'm currently building it out with automations and all sorts of structures that are kind of more relevant to Bloom. And I think that's a really, good way, or an interesting way that Bloom utilizes entrepreneurs to kind of use intrapreneurial kind of outcomes. Because all of us, we are mostly entrepreneurs in our own right.
Absolutely. And I think that idea is fantastic of like tapping into different networks and building a really good support network around you when you are building that business. And I think it's great to almost be able to have those different testing beds where you can be testing ideas in Bloom. And if they work, take them across, but also test the ideas in Peachy and Ginger Imagery and then bring them across as well. Can you tell me as well, as an active member of the WA startup ecosystem, I'm sure every educator watching has got a young person that is really keen to get involved, but just doesn't know where to start. Can you just like give me a quick shopping list? What are some of your favorite places to go, events to attend, networks to tap into for any intrapreneurs or entrepreneurs, wanting to make their start?
Such a good question. I don't even know if you know this about me, but I'm like 2021, I was like a serial networker, like 2 or 3 networking events a week. Like it was too much, but I have learned a lot of interesting piece of advice from that. If you go into just like an Eventbrite or a Humanities or something and type in networking, they'll give you all the networking events in your area. And that's kind of what I did. And I would definitely recommend going to these ecosystem events. But if you're just wanting to hone in your skills with networking, because it is a skill, talking to strangers, putting yourself out there, I'd honestly recommend going to just a general networking event. Often there's some free ones out there. Try your skills, see how you are like with your opening line. And so I did a lot of that in 2021, just did some random networking events. And then from there, I could do some great like networking events that are actually more relevant to me. And so some of those networking events, obviously I've got to mention Bloom. We have a lot of cool networking events in the ecosystem, lots of young people, passionate people. We have a lot of speakers with experience that come in, and they're tailored towards talking to young people and trying to say it in a way that is engaging and inspiring and can really get you started from an early point of view rather than just late stage kind of businesses. In addition, something that I found really handy was there's a newsletter run by a guy called Steve Carell, and it's called the WA Innovation Calendar. And I think it's weekly or fortnightly. He will send you a email with all of the events, the grants, everything you need in the innovation system in Perth, straight into your inbox. And I will just go through that once a week whenever it comes out. And I will just put them all in my calendar, sign up to them. And that's like everything in one place. So it's great.
Oh, that's fantastic. And thank you. I've been making many notes as well of those recommendations. I'm going to check them out. I'll see you at a networking event soon, I'm sure. And I guess a question for that as well, for many of our educators watching, they may have young people that want to make a start, but are just sort of wondering what's the value of going to a networking event? Like if I, as a young person, don't have that one business idea yet, if I'm not actively looking for investment, why should I go? What would you say to a young person that's like, what's the value proposition, I guess, of networking and refining those skills?
Yeah, such a good question. I think networking events in themselves, I think a lot of the other panelists could agree that they're not always the most, you don't get deep relationships from them. The deep relationships often come from afterwards. So I kind of see networking as, I've never done speed networking or speed dating or anything like that, but kind of working out who in the room you want to talk to and be like, you're really awesome. Can we grab a coffee? And often if it's like a mentor relationship, like someone who's a bit older with experience, I'll always be like, can I buy you a coffee? And they're often really interested in helping young people. And I think definitely utilize the fact that you are young, and because they're really wanting to help young people to kind of grow, because they've already had their careers, they've already succeeded in whatever they're doing, and they kind of want to pass that on to the next generation. And so I've gotten awesome mentors just from networking events. They can see the synergies and then you can kind of go deeper. And so the kind of relationships I would be looking for at networking events would be, I think it's just pause. I think it's better to go into a networking event knowing what you're after. And you don't always have to, use them to get things out of people. You can obviously help other people, but you can use them to get a mentor, find someone who's got experience and who's already paved the way. That's really awesome. You can use them to get people who could be a potential business partner if that's something you're looking for, like a developer or something like that. People who, what else have I used them for? Just like hiring people as well. If I need to hire someone who's with a certain skill, just kind of work out what you need with your business or your entrepreneurial journey, connections for the business, and go from there.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Imogen. They were some really fantastic insights, and I'm sure we'll be seeing that next generation of young innovators, young entrepreneurs, and young intrapreneurs hitting the networking events of WA in the not too distant future. Now, Maria, I'd love to hear from you because you've got a really interesting experience and you're doing some really interesting work building Drip, which is an investing platform for teens and for young people. And you're building that within Better Labs. Now, Better Labs, it's part of their venture studio. And I remember when I first met you and when you told me about what the role looked like, I was like, this really is my dream job as well. Are you hiring? Can you tell me just a bit more about what your role looks like? And I guess for those that haven't heard about Better Labs and the venture studio, just a really high level of what that is.
Of course. So just to give a little bit more context, Better Labs is the venture fund that RICWA launched a few years ago as part of their strategic innovation plan. And being a large corporation, RIC's goal is to stay relevant in the future and develop new business opportunities. So with Better Labs Venture Studio, what we are able to do is discover new business opportunities and build startups. We're a small team and we work in pairs to come up with innovative ideas, validate if there is a business opportunity, and build startups from scratch, just like Isa and I are doing with Drip. So my role is to be an entrepreneur and to explore, identify, and validate a business problem to then develop an innovative product that will solve this problem. So yeah, it is generally a dream come true for me. And I'm very grateful for it because I've always loved entrepreneurship and I've always wanted to create something of my own. So also having the support of Better Labs makes the startup journey so much better because we have, access to resources apart from the funding, like amazing mentors and the team collaboration, which is everything. Because we support each other in the journey. We bounce ideas at the office, we brainstorm together, and also definitely challenge each other as well. So that collaboration is probably one of the things that I thought was super cool about Better Labs. And also just like the opportunity to create. I guess that was everything that I've ever wanted to do. Just being able to use my creativity and building a business that will have a positive impact on people. That's probably what attracted me the most to the role as well.
Absolutely. Wow. It really does sound like the dream. And I know for many of those people watching, they may have a young person that is sort of sitting there saying, wow, that really sounds like a career pathway for me. Can you tell us about what it was about Better Labs that attracted you to the role and what the actual process looks like to join the Better Labs team? Are there any sort of skills they look for? What would your advice be for a young person that's sort of sitting there saying, wow, how do I get a job like yours?
Yeah, so I think it's a pretty unique opportunity because there aren't many venture funds that have like internal incubators, but there are a lot of big companies that do have their sort of innovation department where a lot of times they do have some sort of incubator where they hire people to come up with ideas and develop businesses. Because a lot of times large corporations need to find like new revenue streams and new businesses. So they actually need to develop like innovative products within the organizations. So that's something like really interesting. Even companies like Nike, I guess McDonald's, I think they all have like venture, capital inside of them, and they do grow startups within the companies. And at least for Better Labs, we're a small team. And as I said, we work in teams of 2. So like matching with your partner, like business partner is a huge thing. Every team is very different, but like you need to have like things in common with them. You need to share the same passion, have the same values, because at the end of the day, we also have the freedom to choose the industry and the space where we want to innovate and where we want to find new businesses. So we need to have the same interests and, be driven by the same passions and values. I guess like Isa is my lead and the one who like recruited me to join her into this journey. And we're the Latin American team of girl founders. And we have a lot of things in common, but mostly like our values and and the things that we want to do when creating a business are pretty much the same.
Absolutely. I think that's so important, is finding that synergy with the people that you're going to collaborate with and really putting values first. And I find that for a lot of young people, as I chat to them and they think about different career pathways or who they want to work with, they've always got a certain job title in mind. They're like, I want to be an engineer, I want to be an accountant, whatever that might be. But I think, as you said, it's about those values. And I know Gia touched on that before. It's finding something that really fills your cup and is something that you're proud to, like a project you're proud to work on, but also people that you'll really enjoy working with. Now, I guess that leads me into my next question for you, Maria, is around a piece of research that's been done by the Foundation for Young Australians. And this report found that the average young person finishing school today is expected to hold 15 different jobs over 7 different careers, over 7 different industries, over the course of their career. Now, I think thinking about this statistic, it is really important for us to be able to bring our skills from one job to the next and continue building on those. Can you tell me, like, as far as the jobs, the skills you use building Drip, how have you acquired them in previous roles, or what are different skills that you've built over the course of your career to help you out where you are now as an intrapreneur and entrepreneur?
Yeah, sure. So I can say that all my experiences in all different industries, from hospitality and sales to marketing and business, they've all given me fundamental teachings. So from learning from learning how to talk to people to more technical and complex tasks, every experience has brought me its own value. And also, being an entrepreneur means that you have to wear different hats all the time. So I think the most important thing is to stay open, to develop the ability to adapt, to be flexible, and to learn quickly, as you will need to do whatever it takes to get where you want to get. So also, as an entrepreneur, you're not just the founder, you're also the salesperson, the product manager, the brand designer, the customer service responsible, everything, especially at an early stage. So for me, just keeping a beginner's mindset and constantly upskilling, which is something that we take very seriously at Better Labs, has really helped me. So I think for young people, keeping a beginner's mindset and being available to learn new things will give them the most value out of any roles they take.
Absolutely. And I think that definitely resonates with what Gia said a bit earlier as well, around that concept of continuously learning. Now, with that, I would actually love to bring all of our panelists back onto stage in just a second for this next question, because I'd be intrigued to hear all of your responses to this. Now, it's been a recent piece of research done by McCrindle, and it found that when high school students today asked what sources they go to on a daily basis to learn new skills, 50% said they learned new skills from their teachers, which is great to see. Teachers keep doing that awesome work. 48% went to websites, and a stunning 42% went to TikTok to learn, which means TikTok actually ranked higher than parents on a place that young people go daily to learn new skills. In a world where upskilling is essential and it's so important to have that beginner's mindset and to be continuously learning, I would love to know where you guys go to keep up with the latest in your industry. Now, Gia, I know you were the first one to introduce us to that concept of continuous learning in the discussion this afternoon. Where do you go to keep up to date with the latest news, the latest skills? What does that continuous learning journey look like?
I have to say I go to TikTok as well. I mean, well, there's many ways. There are many platforms and many places where we can go and fill our brain with knowledge. I think we will never be short on those information, right? And the way we access to information is just super easy now. And with all those generative AI tools as well that summarize everything much easier. For me, it's not just about where you go find and learn the latest new, because not all of those latest news are important, because you need to filter out. The most important skill today is actually filtering out what you actually don't need, right? Because then otherwise you get overwhelmed. World fast changes. Oh my God, there's so many things going on out in the world. So yes, I do encourage people to stay curious, right? Because while your brain's still young, you still make a lot of connections than the adult brains. That's like scientific. Now, focus on the fundamentals, because as you can already imagine, a lot of things changes all the time, fast changes. One thing that will never change is the fundamental. Or if there's a new concept, learn its fundamental as well. Learn that well. Anything new when it arrives tomorrow, months or years from now, it won't take so much of capacity out of your brain because it will already add into the patterns that you already know and your brain created when you first learned the fundamentals, right? Because you can see, let's say, take for example, like all of the AI skills that's coming out right now. I actually learned the fundamental of AI is about, say, 5 or 6 years ago, right? There are new concepts that comes, but the fundamental doesn't really change much. And even though there are new fundamental that comes, I can relate it very quickly with what I have learned before. So the knowledge acquisitions starting to accelerate now that I learn anything new. Don't get me wrong, it still feel a little bit confusing at first, but it's not as like you learn something new as if like learning how to code again, like for me, like now. And then secondly, think about what you learn, right? Because anything can be your teacher, really. Like if you pay attention and observe, everything can be your teacher. Like you don't have to really have just go to your physical teacher for knowledge. If you let anything teach you, right, observe it, think about how might you connect those dots to what you already know, and how might it impact say the things that has already been going on in the world. It could be conceptual, it could be very tangible. I mean, the list of the knowledge goes on, but think about what you learn and think about what you want to learn as well. Okay, I know probably not the most straightforward answer, and I think learning is personal to different people. So if you know what you want to learn, observe it, stay curious, and learn the fundamental wells, you will enjoy learning for the rest of your life.
Absolutely. I love that concept around learning the fundamentals and also that importance of filtering information. I think when it comes to the fundamentals, even as we talk about that concept of intrapreneurship, I think it is still so new for many educators. But when we really break it down, as Maria mentioned, so many organizations, big and small, are appointing teams looking at innovation inside their organization, that sort of concept of corporate innovation. And it's those entrepreneurial skills, those fundamentals, but applied in a new way. And then that need for filtering information in a world with so much info. I think that ability to really take a critical eye to it and say, is this good or bad information, is so important. Maria and Imogen, any insights on where you guys go to learn new skills and keep up to date?
I agree with Gia. I think like nowadays I'm very skeptical around what I read or see online. Like I try to not believe everything that I see online. And I actually prefer to stay curious and actually go and explore for myself, like in person kind of thing. Like I think the idea of talking to people and just asking questions as much as we can bring a lot of value that's probably undervalued. So yeah, I think just like putting yourself out there and talking to people, even if you don't know them, just like finding out for yourself and actually speaking and learning from others, I think is a good way to also stay updated.
Absolutely. And Imogen, any other last thoughts?
Yeah, I think you guys covered a lot. I think also we call it at Bloom copy genius. So finding people who have done it before, done it well, and kind of copying what they do and changing it obviously for what you need. We use that model a lot. So for example, I'll be like, I need a better CRM. I'll do a bit of research, maybe go to a networking event, ask some other entrepreneurs what they do, find one that's done a really good job, and just be like, can I take you to coffee again? Lots of coffee is in entrepreneurship and in intrapreneurship. And just like grill them and ask them all the questions about that. And then if there's anything else, I'll often go to YouTube to be like, what's the nitty gritty? How do I actually use this in practice?
Absolutely. I am such a fan of learning through YouTube. Now, I am really conscious of the time. I know many of our educators term 2 is a very crazy term, so I don't want to keep them too long. Just before we go, I would love to just get one short final bit of inspiration from each of you guys. And that would be what your advice is for any educator that's sitting at home or in their staff room at the moment, that's got a young person that really has got that entrepreneurial spark, but maybe hasn't found the right idea yet. They really do want to think big. They're thinking differently, but they're maybe not quite ready to go out on their own business journey. And they maybe want to be an intrapreneur, want to be entrepreneurial inside an existing organization. What advice would you have for that educator to help nurture that spark and feed that flame within their student? I'm happy for anyone to get started on this one. I know it's quite a big question.
I can go first. I think this is based on my experience when I was young, and I wish that there were more encouraging people like today, to get the young people to go on to do innovations or start their own business. For me, it's that barriers where they don't know about a particular thing because they might have not experienced that for themselves, but it might not be the reality of the world. So instead of trying to put that barriers, when let's say, your kids or students come up and say they want to do these amazing things, and it might sound unrealistic, right? But instead of you going to them and say, that's not going to work, or whatever, like negative response that kind of shut them down, let them explore that, like encourage them to explore. But because you also bring the experience as adult, you've been through so many years of your life, what works and what doesn't. So maybe ask questions that help them form their thoughts, or trying to test their assumption of, all right, if it's not realistic in your mind, how might they test their assumption to know more and then learn more in that journey? So be more encouraged to young minds. If it doesn't work, let them experience that themselves. Because for me, like, I wouldn't know what I like doing until I actually do it. Because they keep saying, yeah. What is your passion? You got to write down your passion. But the thing is, you never know what is your passion when you are so young, right? Because your experience like this small, like you only have been like 5 seconds in this world, so you probably don't know yet what you want to do. So how I actually got to where I am today, even though it's not like owning businesses or anything, but for me it was those encouragement for me to explore, for me to do more, and for me to go out and test different experiences to see whether I like it, whether it's going to be for me. And I hope that educators and parents or people that looking guardians encourage more of the young minds to explore that for themselves and don't put the box around them.
Absolutely. Maria, how about yourself? What advice would you have for any educator that has a young person with that spark but doesn't quite have the perfect idea yet? What advice would you have?
Yeah, I think like just what Gia said about like just trying anything, even if it's not what, ideally they would want to do or what they think, like not waiting to get the right opportunity or what they think it is the right opportunity, but just trying out different things. But also like I would love to see educators encourage young people to choose wisely in terms of choose to be in a place where you're around people that let you be yourself, that you can genuinely be yourself and feel comfortable. Because I think like that's the most important thing at the end of the day in any job, that you're around people that you enjoy the presence of and that you can be yourself and actually, thrive in that environment. And then, discovering your passion will come. So yeah, I just think like, being in a place where it makes you happy is the main thing, and trying out different things, and then not putting pressure around what is it that that I have to do, what's my passion, where's the right opportunity for me. It's gonna come, And the more people that you meet, the more you learn that there are different things out there in the world. So you might end up doing something that you never expected.
Absolutely. And Imogen, last but not least.
I think, yeah, you guys said it all in terms of creating that kind of safe space for kids. I think also a lot of the entrepreneurs I've spoken to and entrepreneurs, it's a big jump from going from the university and school scene into just being on your own. It's a big wide world out there. So I think also don't spoon feed them everything. Let them learn, let them fail, I think is a big one for me. Obviously in a safe kind of spot, but you don't want to pathologize failing, because I think it's always good. And entrepreneurs, you're going to do it. Entrepreneurs, you're going to do it. So I think it's really important to not make it a bad thing and make it just like, oh, you failed, awesome, how are we going to learn from this? And just make it part of the process.
Awesome. Fabulous. Well, on behalf of all of our audience who are tuning in virtually, I'm going to give you all a big round of applause. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. I'm absolutely buzzing with ideas, and I've got pages and pages of notes down here as well. So to Maria, to Gia, and to Imogen, thank you for joining us this afternoon. Now, I'm sure you can all agree that was an absolutely action-packed webinar. I know for me, some of my main takeaways were that idea that Imogen just finished with, letting them fail, letting our students fail and learn through that failure as well. I think I loved Gia's idea as well, that you don't necessarily, as a young person, need to be the one to start with an idea to be able to make an impact. You can sometimes take someone else's idea and be able to grow it. But really, as Maria emphasized, it's all around that continuous learning journey. It's about upskilling, it's about learning, it's about staying up to date with what's happening in your industry. I think that importance of networking that Imogen talked about is absolutely key for any young person, regardless of whether they know exactly what they want to do. It's just getting out there and building your networks. And I think finding someone with common values as you're networking, as Maria touched on, the ability of finding someone that really aligns with you or finding opportunities that align with you are key. So from myself, I wanted to say thank you all for tuning in this afternoon. And I'm now going to hand back over to Lily to tell you guys a little bit more about Edufest WA and all we have in store for you in September. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Maria, Imogen, Gia, and Scott, for such an insightful discussion. I'm absolutely buzzing with ideas, inspiration, and I think I speak for the educators tuning in across the state when I say that I think this discussion has sparked a new line of thinking on how we can all work together to foster the next generation of intrapreneurs and innovators in our classrooms. So as we do work to prepare our young people, organizations around the world are emphasizing the need for intrapreneurial skills and an innovation mindset in young people looking to excel their careers across every field. Edufest WA has been designed to help educators from across Western Australia create impactful learning experiences that will help their young people develop these work-ready skills that we hear about, such as problem solving, resilience, innovation, leadership, communication, reasoning, teamwork, creativity, adaptability, and digital confidence. And as highlighted by the department's new work capabilities, these are just some of the skills that are essential for young people looking to thrive in the workforce. So we're looking forward to exploring impactful and engaging ways to help our young people develop these skills from an early age in our classrooms of the future. Our 2024 attendees are in for a treat with an action-packed program coming to life on the 11th of September. I'll give you a bit of a rundown. We'll be kicking off with an optional morning musing session at 7:30 with the opportunity to grab a coffee, enjoy some pastries, and hear from a thought leader as they share their insights. From there, at 9 a.m, our official program will commence with an opening keynote and a panel discussion exploring what intrapreneurship, innovation, and work capabilities look like in industries. Then as we come back from our morning tea, we'll have a variety of masterclasses for attendees to keep up to date with the latest tools and strategies and hear from other schools that will help empower their students and level up their teaching practices. After lunch, our attendees will be diving into an action-packed afternoon with a speaker's corner that will offer attendees a chance to build their own adventure as they engage in some insightful conversations with thought leaders, before participating in an educator's design sprint to co-design impactful solutions to the challenges we're facing in our school communities and provide educators with a chance to take something practical away, ready to implement. After the design sprint, we'll be hearing from an inspiring speaker to finish off the day. But with the original official program closing at 3:30, for any attendees who will wish to continue networking, we will have an optional sundowner running from 3:30 p.m. with refreshments, and then a relaxed mistakes that made us conversation to hear from leading educational innovators about a time when things didn't go to plan, how they learned from it, how they grew from those experiences, and really normalize the process of creating something, putting a new project out there, and how we can learn from our mistakes. So I'm sure you can agree, we've got a massive day in store and we can't wait to see you all there. Now, our program has something for educators and community leaders at every level. For classroom teachers, you can expect to gain practical skills to infuse lessons with work capabilities, innovative pedagogies, and real-world connections to better engage students in their learning. Our innovation champions, perhaps heads of department or those with innovation in their title, those working to equip students for the workforce, will be provided with the opportunity to keep up to date with the latest approaches, initiatives, and learning experiences being driven by innovative educators and industry leaders across the ecosystem. And for our school leaders, you'll gain assistance in developing strategies to build an authentic culture of innovation, intrapreneurship, and future thinking in the school community. Finally, our industry and community change makers will gain insights into how they can best equip students and teachers in their community with the skills required to thrive in our ever-changing future. So thank you for listening to our webinar today. Thank you for tuning in. As I mentioned, we know this is a really busy time. We are grateful for you joining us. We hope that it's given you some ideas to start thinking about, some things to share with your students about what their pathways could look like, and a bit of an introduction to Edufest WA. And you can purchase your tickets. Tickets are live now through the Edufest WA website, or through getting in touch with Bob or Bloom. We can send you the link. And we hope to see you there. Thanks, everyone.